paranormal community. Thank you for partaking of the Odyssey Files here on the web network. I'm your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Sawyering. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike, and good evening to our super fan and to everybody else who's listening. I just want to say, Anthony, thank you very much for the gift that you sent. Love it.
Yes.
So,
I was
we forgot to do that last week, so I'm sorry.
Yes, we did. We were so eager to get on the show. You were back, and the whole I would say drama of it, but the whole excitement of it.
Just the whole excitement of it. Yep.
Yeah, that it was the end of the show, and I'm like, crap. we didn't do the one thing that I really wanted to do, and that was obviously thank Mr. Anthony for sending us each something amazing. So
yes, absolutely.
So
and I just want to say, in case my camera, like if you're staring at the ceiling instantaneously, don't freak out. I'll get it figured out again. But for whatever reason, my back clasp on my camera is not grabbing the back of my monitor for shit. So I apologize in advance if it happens.
Yeah,
it's just balanced right now, very gingerly. I don't want to touch anything. I don't want to sneeze because otherwise I'm going to be like, bloop, and now I'm going to be gone, and you're going to see like the roof and or whatever, or who the hell knows, the carpeting, something.
Yep. And everybody who's listening on audio only we'll just hear the chaotic aftermath of you trying to fix.
It'll be the scramble.
It'll be the Leduc Mansion all over again.
I'm trying to figure out how to get my camera back up.
Yep. Dave, we're off the air.
We're off the air. We're on the air. We're off the air. Oh, shit.
But the audio is recording the entire time.
The entire time. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess as an early disclaimer that I won't have to record later. If you hear that on the audio version of the show, that is what is going on.
That is what is going on. I am excited once we get past we got some good questions this week. I thought we got some good questions, some kind of thought-provoking questions. But then I'm excited to get to our second hour because our topic tonight, as you probably saw, was the Satanic Panic.
Yes, something that until you suggested it earlier in the week, most of the stuff like I've heard of, obviously,
right?
But I've never heard it described as the Satanic Panic. Like I didn't know it actually had a term associated with it.
Yep.
And little did I know that I guess like offshoots, like it's given birth to other little panics over the years that have used these same tactics.
Right.
And and I'm just gonna say right now at the beginning of this show, and I told Dave this before we came on the air, I do not know exactly how to put my thoughts into an hour-long segment because to me it's like this is all based on the same political bullshit that we see now. And honestly,
the original was not political.
No, it wasn't.
The core of what really started the Satanic Panic was not political in any way, shape, or form.
The thing about this is
it has bred itself into.
Yes, it has.
Now, if you want to continue it, moving forward, it's of course taken a little bit of a political type of.
Yes,
I think they're just. I think like anything else that we talk about, honestly, I think that they just want to use it because it's going to draw attention to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only reason that term even is really alive today, to be honest, in my opinion. I think that's really the only reason that term is alive, because back in the 80s when the Satanic Panic happened, and I don't want to get into a ton of stuff in the beginning of the show until we get to the second hour, but when it really was at its height, there were a lot of people that were really scared, and there was a lot of misinformation that the media was promoting, right? A lot of propaganda that the media, but the media was really just to blame as much as everybody else was, because they were pumping that shit out like, hey, Satan is coming to your neighborhood, and all this crap, and we're going to get into it, but like anything else in our lives, like anything else in history, there is a smidgen of truth that perpetuates something this big, right? So were there ritualistic killings? Absolutely. I think there's ritualistic killings today, probably. I'd be highly surprised if somebody couldn't pinpoint some occult or some fanatical type of sacrifice. I'm sure they're out there, right? I mean, people die every day. I'm sure part of that probably is that you could chalk a lot of that up to if you talk to an FBI agent or like somebody who was on like a special task force team, there probably is more than we know. They just don't talk about it, which is smart, because when you don't talk about that shit and you don't promote it, then other people who are mentally unstable don't participate in it. Right? I mean, there was that whole thing with the show, like how to the Perfect Murder or whatever was on I'm not going to say the network. Sorry. Nether Regions Network. That's what I was going to say with the N. But I know exactly. I'm just trying to recoup from that. But I didn't want to say, I know where I was headed, and I didn't want anybody I don't want to go there because I don't want to get a letter. But, that there was a show on a major network that was like how to commit the perfect murder. And that show got a lot of criticism because there were people who were mentally unstable or people who were on the verge of wanting to get their 5 minutes of fame that were, using that as a toolkit to be a serial killer. As scary as that sounds, then it does sound scary.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to the second hour.
No. So let's get into questions. So
right.
I don't want to talk about the second hour to the second hour. I'm finding myself falling into the second hour already because I'm excited. There's a lot of really weird but interesting stuff that happened in the 80s with the Satanic Panic, and that's kind of why I threw that idea past you. I'm like, well, let's talk about this because there's like some really kind of shit we're going to talk about that you're just going to like scratch your head like, there's no way that happened, Dave. There's no way that happened, Mike. You guys are full of shit. And then you're going to have to go online and look it up yourself and be like, oh, you guys are right. Mm-hmm. That did actually happen.
Well, you would think after 5 years that longtime listeners especially just know that we're right.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Our true fans know that what we're telling you is the truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No matter
from our viewpoint.
Yes. Exactly. Whatever. All right. Getting into stories and questions. I've read them over, and I don't know what you're talking about when you say thought provoking, but that's okay. We'll get into other
There's
stuff.
A couple of them that are. I thought.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of these for me, as I was reading them over, I'm like, well, that's a really quick answer.
Well, so the beauty part here is that we don't have any like 20-minute reads.
Oh no, that's really good.
This week,
I agree.
Right? Which is a bonus, right? Because sometimes some of the questions that come in are like 15 paragraphs long. And God bless you. Thank you for sending those. I appreciate it. But it's hard to put those on the show.
Yes.
Because it takes, if we had spent 10 minutes reading it, there's just too much content in there. So,
all right. Number 1, every time I sleep over at my father's house, I wake up with a headache. Plus, every time I close the door, it locks. In the parentheses, I do not lock the doors. Hi, guys. I was wondering if you could, if this could be due to ghost or paranormal activity. I'm just curious if anyone else has experienced this and if it was due to ghosts or spirits. I always get a bad energy in my father's home too. This seems like classic um, EMF.
I know where I was going to say, I know where you're heading. So
yeah, like high EMF sensitivity.
Right. I was heading the same way. Yep.
Yeah, you get headaches, you get nausea, you can get, if you have extreme sensitivity, you can get rashes. It's paranoia, hallucinations. Right. I mean, there's all kinds of symptoms to high EMF.
Yep.
And the basic fact of every time that you're there, every time,
right,
that leads me to believe it is not paranormal, because you pretty much can replicate it over and over and over again because it happens every time. So that would lead me obviously to believe there's a natural explanation for this, and there's something in the house itself that is causing this. Whether it's high EMF or whether maybe there's mold in the walls, something like that is affecting you physically that has nothing to do with the paranormal. As for the doors,
that's the interesting part of that question, to be honest.
Yeah, but it honestly, he would have to see the doors. Like I would have to see photos of the locks or whatever. I mean, there are doors that just automatically lock.
Right.
And you can open them. You see them. I see them on businesses every day. On the outside, they're locked. On the inside, you can get out just fine.
Right.
Whether that the door,
but you wouldn't. But a lock like that wouldn't be in a residential house.
Who knows?
But you wouldn't think so, is what I'm saying.
In general,
you wouldn't think in general, right? You wouldn't think that would be
terms,
right.
You are absolutely correct. You would not normally find those, but
you would not normally find those, right?
Did they childproof it? Did they make it so a child couldn't get into the door?
Right.
What was there a dog who can actually jump up and hit the doorknob? I've seen it all the time. That dogs can open doors, right. depending obviously on the handle. There's a lot of different reasons for why somebody would get a door like that. Whether this is one of them, I don't know.
Right.
There could be where it's not necessarily locked but jammed. For whatever reason. Maybe it's a faulty framework or something where the door is just getting jammed in there so much that you think it's locked. Because you can't open it unless you force it. The thing about this one is he doesn't say how does he actually get it back into the room.
Right.
Does he have to get a key? Does he force it open? I mean, he just says it locks. Okay, well, need more when it comes to that. And again, if that is the only thing that you're getting, headaches and locked doors, you're definitely not in any danger of anything other than being inconvenienced.
Inconvenienced, right?
Being able to get back into a room.
Right.
So I mean,
there we go again. Locked door.
Where's the key?
Exactly. Where's the? Got to go down the hall, get the damn key. Yeah.
So I mean, in my opinion, in this one, I don't think it's paranormal at all. But that's just me.
No, I agree. I don't necessarily think it's paranormal. My advice would be spend $20 on an EMF meter or something like the one that I use that Mike has also bought. That like when I had the fan in my room years ago, and I sent you that thing. I'm like, check this out, right? And I'm not EMF sensitive, but I'm like, wow, this thing is really freaking blowing some high EMF. It was red when I got to the, within like 2-3 feet of the fan. And I'm like, holy crap, this thing is like bleeding EMF. Oh, sorry. Did that sound as weird? That sound as bad as it did on my end? Woo.
No, not at all. It sounded fine.
Holy crap. But yeah, so if you have questions about it, honestly, I would spend the $20, take it with you, see if there's something in the room that's bleeding EMF, fan, I don't know, Mike, off the top of my head, what else? Like, check the fan for sure if you have a fan next to your bed. A lot of people like to sleep to fan noise and or the feeling of a fan blowing on them. Check that first. most lamps, I don't think a lamp is going to put off enough EMF to really, spike a red thing. But there could be something in the wall, or it could be a socket. It could be one of the outlets. Could certainly have high EMF bleed.
I had a case.
Ceiling fan, maybe.
Right. So I mean, I had a case a while back where like the mother and wife of the family was just experiencing all kinds of voices, and I mean that was like the main thing, was like just a shit ton of voices.
Like disembodied voices.
Yeah, like she could hear them, but she thought they're all talking to her, but I'm like, honestly, they don't really sound like they're interacting with you at all. They're just here. But what I found out is they lived in one of those townhomes where like everything is stacked or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
And in the middle of the place was their like boiler room, and went to their boiler room with the millimeter, to their furnace or whatnot. And when that thing was on, it was like 176 on the EMF gauge. I had photos of it until probably a couple months ago, because it was so flipping high. I'm like,
wow,
look at this. I'm like, and their bedroom was almost right above it, maybe a little off, but I mean, it was like right in the center of the place. So, I mean, it might not even be in the walls or whatever. It could be underneath, but it's throwing out such high EMF
that it bleeds through. Yeah.
That it's affecting, the entire place.
Right.
And that's going to get to you after a while. I mean, sooner or later, like it's not even going to need to be on in order for you to like be whacked out of your skull.
Right.
So, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Get an EMF detector, look at it, see if you can find any of it. But I can almost guarantee you're going to find it someplace.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think that right. I think the headaches really are going to be explainable. The locked doors, I need more information. I mean, to be honest, right? I mean, for me to give you an honest answer, I just need more information on the locked door thing. I really don't. I'm assuming that in a residential type of setup, you don't have the type of commercial doors that would lock. It could be wrong, but I'm assuming that you don't. So as far as the headaches, I think they're explainable. I think that if you got an EMF detector, you're going to find what the cause is, and you might just be EMF sensitive. The locked doors, I don't know. And honestly, if you do a sweep of the house and there's no EMF and you still can't explain the locks and there's no commercial locks, send us another message and in more detail, because I would love to explore that, because that's two claims. So I would love to explore that.
Need the info.
Yeah, need a little bit more info. Okay. So number 2, helping with identifying a possible spirit. So when I was in high school, we lived in Germany, and I did see a few spirits there, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I think that something tried to lure my sister and I into the forest under the guise of needing help, and I know it wasn't a person for these very simple facts. Number 1, the person was screaming in English, which is strange when you live in a German neighborhood. I would agree. Number 2, the voice immediately stopped when we started running. Number 3, I've always said that I thought the voice sounded like a woman, but when I asked my sister about it later, she claimed that she heard a girl. A lot of my friends asked me why I didn't run towards it, and honestly, there was just something so off about it that my sister and I looked at each other and took off. We didn't stop running until we were home, and my parents really did not believe us. I'm sort of curious as to what this could have been. One person I talked to said they thought it could have been a white lady situation, but I feel like we would have seen it if that was the case. What are your guys' thoughts? So I had to do a little bit of research on this, which I love. As the white lady in Germany, Okay. So taking it as not, because I don't want to put the U.S. spin on the white lady, or the lady in white, as we would call it. But the white lady in German actually stems back to the Grimm stories and Old Norse and Teutonic mythology with elves, that they possibly could have been like what they call white elves. I don't think, and I'm not an expert on elves, sorry, but I don't think that if a Germanic elf was in the forest, that they would be trying to like lure you into some sort of harm's way. Because it sounds to me like this person feels like, at least, that they were potentially lured into harm's way. If you take a look at the Hungarian term for woman or white woman, is that it was a ghost that was either that died in a violent way. So whether raped and killed, they had died in prison was one of the ways. Raped and killed, died in prison, died in a tragic accident, type of mentality, that they were this energy that would come back and haunt the woods, and that they would try to lure you back into the woods. I'm going to assume, because it didn't say this, but I'm going out on a ledge. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Bless you. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say it would be kind of like a succubus type of thing. Not necessarily a demonic type of succubus type of thing, but they would draw energy from you or feed off of you if you came back into the woods to where they were. That said, you probably were smart in running. Honestly, yep. I would have left too. Especially, they didn't say exactly how old they were, but it was like brother, sister, I'm assuming teenagers, kind of mentality, or age-wise. Something lures you into the woods. I mean, even today, if something tried to lure me into the woods, I would stand at the edge of the woods and I'd be like, come on out, show yourself, or something to that effect. I wouldn't be scared. I wouldn't run, but I would be, show me what you are. Come show me. Are you some sort of spirit that wants to cause harm, or are you some sort of elemental? Right? And an elemental probably isn't going to hurt you, I would assume. I've never met an elemental.
I don't know if really anybody has, like, officially met. I know people have encountered them, obviously.
They've encountered them, right?
But I
like going to Amy Allen, I guess, would be my thought. But like, has she met an elemental?
No.
Probably not. Has she encountered them? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as far as she says, anyway. Like I'd be the same way. I have never run across an elemental that I know of.
I think I've had a case where it was a possible elemental. But again, never met them.
Right. Never met them.
Never met them. Never saw them.
Right.
You just look at the aftermath. You look at the claims.
right.
and you try to figure out if this is more of a land-based thing or not. And then you obviously just apologize and give some tribute.
Right.
And
right.
Shit goes back to normal. So, I mean, what's throwing me off is the whole German thing, because I constantly want to look at this as though it were in my neighborhood.
Yeah, but it's not. That's why I actually had to look up like German Lady in White, and it's totally different than what Our Lady in White is.
Well, I mean, I never went as far as Lady in White, because one of the things that, as far as I'm aware, again, Our Lady in White,
Right.
never does, is the Lady in White has never been known to try to lure somebody by screaming help into the forest.
No.
Like, you always see her, and it's usually some type of revenge type thing. Like, she's
Right.
out for revenge of some sort against people who may obviously not have wronged her, but have wronged other people in the same fashion.
Right.
So, but again, that's our version of the White Lady. So, but I still never went that way. When I was reading this, first thing that popped into my head was Wendigo. They scream for help. They mimic human voices. Are they in Germany? No flipping idea. I mean, it's never come up. It's never something
Right.
that that I've ever had to research. Is a German Wendigo. But again, that's a native thing, and
Right.
natives are America. So
Right.
what would, I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be possible that there's a German version of what the Wendigo would be, because honestly, what creates a Wendigo doesn't necessarily have to remain native only.
No, it's it's the action.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's not. It's. I don't think it's. I agree with you. I don't think it's. I don't think it's set to Native Americans only. I think it's the action of what causes the creation of a Wendigo.
Yeah, and anybody
And
can
I
do
think that
that.
could happen anywhere. Right. It
Exactly.
doesn't. Borders don't make any difference for the action. So.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, could that have been it? Who knows? Maybe. Um, the other thing that came to mind was a banshee.
Yeah, I thought that too.
But
That was my number one vote. Vote was like, is this a banshee type of situation?
I just looked.
But it wasn't it wasn't a scream. It was a cry for help,
Right, and
which is that's why I kind of tossed that out. So
yeah, no, I had to as well. I mean, while you were talking, I looked up banshee, and just to see,
right,
are there claims of being lured into a forest?
right,
Are there claims of, yes, I know they're screeching and they sing and stuff like that, but maybe there's another version of it that
right.
cries for help or something along those lines. Or maybe they took the wailing as a sign for help. Maybe necessarily what they
And
heard
right,
wasn't help me, but it was like a cry.
the cry, right, and
You're like,
that what they
ah,
heard, right, what they heard was help me,
well, I don't even know if they heard the words help me.
or come here, or whatever they caused, right, whatever the cause was.
Oh, well, if it was come here, that's Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Right.
Anytime he throws out a spear, he's like, come here,
Right.
So I'm just saying.
Exactly. I agree. Right.
Well, the female Scorpion, I guess. But anyway, so what this is, I don't necessarily know. I do agree with you and them that probably running was the best case scenario there.
Yeah. Yeah. Get away from it. Whatever it was.
Yeah. What it was, no flipping idea. I have my theories as well as you, and as well as them, but unless there's more of just this one instance, is it something, is there folklore, is there some sort of pattern of people, not even necessarily in that neighborhood, but just like in, let's just say, Germany, of encountering like a cry for help to lure people into the forest. But I mean, if it's just this instance, it could be any great number of things.
Right. I agree with you 100%. I would like to know is that stand of woods, is that section of woods notorious for people hearing weird shit or having weird encounters?
Right.
You know, and if it is, then that lends more towards the possibility, right, that maybe something weird is happening there. Maybe something paranormal possibly is happening there.
Well, I mean,
and then why?
We haven't even taken the one stance that like just gets rid of the paranormal altogether. What if it was simply
some kids in the woods,
somebody in the forest,
right,
human living,
right,
trying to lure them into the woods,
right, or just some kids having fun?
Well, right. I mean,
having a few beers, smoking some cigarettes, just in the woods, just away from their parents, right? They live in the neighborhood. They just went there, you know, and they were just goofing around, and somebody was like, oh, let's scare them, you know, and they scared them, you know, and they took off running.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't.
It wouldn't be an uncommon theme. Trust me. You know, people like go in the woods and like scare other people, or you scare somebody else, regardless of where you are. It's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah. So I mean, this could be simply not paranormal whatsoever.
Correct.
Could be. I don't know. So, alrighty. Number 3. Have people actually seen Bloody Mary? Now, I haven't tried it yet, nor should you. But my past self from like 5 years ago was invested in Bloody Mary to very made up Baby Blue. I don't know what Baby Blue is. Maybe you do, etc. So I am curious to know if anyone has actually seen Bloody Mary. Have either of you ever seen Bloody Mary? No. That's pretty much my answer. Just no. Because I'm not going to speak for Dave. I don't do idiotic things like that. Like, I don't try to invite spirits to come to me. And it's, and nor should you, nor should anybody for that matter. Because, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where if it wasn't paranormal or if it wasn't supernatural, would you still do it? If there was some sort of line that you could throw it on social media to invite a serial killer to your house, would you still do that for the experience? Probably not, because you know nothing good is going to come from it. You know, would you send?
I would agree. Yeah.
Would you send a newspaper clipping out? Would you do some sort of ritual to bring a pedophile to babysit your kids? No, because you know nothing good is going to happen. Right. So why would anybody in their right freaking mind have nothing but bad shit happen to people who call on Bloody Mary, even though I don't even think that whole thing exists. That's just all in people's minds. Like, you don't call Bloody Mary to you and then you win the lottery. Like, there's nothing good that comes from it. So why would you want to do it? And it bothers me that people still try to do this stuff, even though they know, or there's no evidence whatsoever that anything good could ever come from it. And so, no, I've never seen Bloody Mary. I don't want to see Bloody Mary. I have no interest in seeing Bloody Mary. And nor should anybody else. And that is my answer.
I would agree. So I'm going to say this, even though I don't want to. If you look up Baby Blue, the Baby Blue urban legend, there is a very ritualistic type of thing that you have to do.
It's almost like Dead Man's Hide and Seek.
Yeah, I don't even want to bring that back up because
nor do I.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But yes,
yes, yes, very much so. So it's very ritualistic. It requires you to perform actions in a step in a certain pattern, and that certain steps that you have to take are very would potentially cause you harm. I guess is the best way for me to say it. So
Imagine that.
imagine that, right? So, have I ever seen Bloody Mary? No. I have no intention of seeing Bloody Mary. I don't challenge myself to see things or to conjure things. I've seen enough things that I've seen more things that I ever want to see in my life. I'm already way ahead of the curve when it comes to seeing shit that you don't want to see. So, am I going to like do some sort of challenge? No, I'm not going to. No. My suggestion to you, to the listeners, also would be not to, because I've said this. I don't know, not a million times, but I've said it a few 100,000 times. Be careful what you want. Be careful what you wish for, because when you get it, right, most people lose their shit. Like, I honestly don't know one personal experience of anybody I know that when they actually received what they wanted, like what they were like, let's just say it was somebody playing blood, and I'm not, this is not a true story, just an example. Let's just say it was somebody playing Bloody Mary, okay, and they actually were locked in the bathroom and with the mirror, and they actually conjured Bloody Mary. Somehow they actually were able to conjure Bloody Mary, and Bloody Mary came through and ruined their lives. Okay, because she's not there to make you feel better about yourself. Just in case you guys are wondering, that's not what the whole purpose of Bloody Mary is. So let's just say that happened. It's an experience that you really don't want to have, and so why would you ask for it, right? Like, why would you ask for it? Why would you think that, hey, check this out, man, this is really cool, I'm gonna do this, and I just don't get the mentality behind it. So people that are listening, always just do this. Just do me a favor, all right? Honestly, just think ahead a step from where you are at the moment in time. Just think a step further, okay? Do you really want to have something happen by conjuring or bringing something forward, right? Do you really want that? Now, maybe if it's the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow and you're going to get the pot of gold, I see the value in that. I actually was in the end of a rainbow. I've actually been there. I was fishing on a lake when the rainbow started on the lake, and my father and I motored to the spot and actually went to the exact spot where the rainbow started and went into the mist with the crystals that started the rainbow. I was actually there. There was no leprechaun. There was no pot of gold, but it was a hell of an experience. It was cool as hell, and it's something I'll always talk about. It was cool as hell because we actually did it, right? Like, you actually got to be in the edge of like the end of a rainbow. That was cool as hell. Did it pay benefits? Did we get a reward? No. But was it cool as a personal experience? Yeah, it was cool as a personal experience. Is Bloody Mary going to be cool as a personal experience? No, it's not. Right? Is one man hide and seek going to be cool as a personal? No, it's not. Right? It's not. There's nothing on the other side that you're going to benefit from.
Yeah,
And
the
if you
grass
bring,
the grass is dead on the other
yeah,
side.
Yeah, if you choose to bring that shit forward, just be prepared for what you're bringing. Just, don't complain about it. Don't cry about it. Don't go to your spouse or your best friend and be like, oh, I can't believe oh God, what did I do? Right? Well, you did exactly what you set out to do. A stupid move. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but it was a stupid maneuver.
Yep.
So don't do it. Just let it be a legend, right? Let it die. Just let it die off. Just let it be a legend. You don't have to be the one who brings it back to life.
Nope.
And I don't want to see Bloody Mary. What the hell would I want to see her for? Okay. Number 4. Interesting question. Do people who wear glasses see ghosts in focus without them? If someone who is short-sighted or myopic is woken at night by a visible ghost, would they actually see them in focus without their glasses? Are there any reports on this? Would it shed light on whether ghosts are physical or spiritual? I think this is a good question. I think that if you wake up and you actually are seeing a spirit, we've talked about this many times. I think they're going to present themselves to you like they want to. So, not that this necessarily makes sense, but I think that they would show themselves as to you'd be able to see them, that it wouldn't be a blur, let's say. So if you were really short-sighted and something, let's just say you couldn't see past the foot of the bed, okay, as short-sighted, and something showed up in the corner of the room or by the closet door or whatever, or in the closet, like the closet door opened, and I hate closets, by the way, but a closet door opened and something was standing in the closet, would you be able to see it? I think you would, because I think that the spirit is trying to show itself to you. And this would go in the same line to me, as far as I understand it. This would go in the same line to me as if I'm in Germany or if I'm in Russia or if I'm in China, if I actually do see a spirit, would that spirit speak in a way that I could understand it? And I think that would happen. I don't think that if I was in Russia or China, let's say, I don't think that they'd be speaking Russian or Chinese and that I'd be sitting there scratching my head. I think if they really wanted to communicate with me, like they really had a message to give to me, they'd be able to give me that message. And so, whether there's some sort of ghost translator device, I know it sounds cheesy, but is there something like that? I don't know. But do I think that if there really was something that they wanted to say to me, would I be able to understand it? I think so. And I think the same thing with vision is kind of where I was headed with that. So I think that if they really wanted to show themselves to you, like, Dave, I'm here and I'm watching you or whatever, would I be able to see them without my glasses? I think so.
I disagree with that one.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't saying it was like, I disagree with you, so you're wrong. It was just,
we never take it that way.
No, exactly.
Right. Just differing their opinions. Right.
So basically, in my opinion, it's one of those, if you need your glasses to see, clearly,
right.
And it is a physical apparition, like it's separated from you, it's standing there. it's going to appear like any other thing that would appear. It's going to appear blurry to you until you put your glasses on. Would you be able to see it? Sure, but it'd be a blurry figure. I don't think that a physical entity can make themselves super focused so that your eyes can perceive it in a way that like transcends your your physical body and where you would need glasses. Now, if it is in some way connected to, like, it's in your head and presenting itself to you,
Right.
because we've often talked about whether experiences are meant for a specific person.
Right.
Usually that's audio, a disembodied voice, something like that.
Right. Audio. Yeah.
So I mean, if you are using your third eye to see a spirit, or it's projecting itself into your head as standing in front of your bed, then yeah, I think it would be able to manipulate you to see it however it wanted to. But if it's separated from you and just standing there, like let's just say the Hat Man, for instance. I mean, the Hat Man can enter your dreams, but if it's not in your dreams, you're awake and it's just standing there, I think it's going to be blurry like everything else until you put your glasses on, and then you'd be able to see it.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
With that thought, is that how most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, a spirit, when you see a spirit, right, it's kind of a fleeting moment, right? Would you have enough time to put your glasses on and look back in that direction and actually still see the spirit? Or do you think it would just be one of those scratch your head kind of moments, like, well, I don't know, maybe I didn't have my glasses on, maybe I saw something, maybe I didn't, right?
The latter.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about a fleeting experience,
well, which most spirit visitations are fairly quick from what we know.
Well, exactly. But I mean, one of the things that you were talking about, with your answer, was that it wants to be seen by you.
Right.
That would not be a fleeting experience, because a fleeting experience is it's out of the corner of your eye.
Potentially not, right.
It's walking in front of your door. It really has no interest in really showing itself to you as much as it's just able to be seen.
Right.
And so, no, you would not have your chance to put on your glasses and see what it is. It would just be a blurry figure out of the corner of your eye, or blurry something out of the corner of your eye. But that is what most, encounters, I guess, with apparitions are. If it wanted to be seen by you, like its goal is to be seen by you, then it would either wait until you put your glasses on.
Yeah.
Or it would attach itself to your mind or whatever. It would make it so physically you would be able to see it. But I mean, honestly, whether it's a blurry apparition at the foot of your bed, or a clear apparition at the foot of your bed, you're still going to know that there's something standing there at the foot of your bed.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean,
you're still going to have an experience.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you see it 100% clarity or not is irrelevant. Right. You're still going to have an experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And if it wanted to give you a message, whether you see it clearly or not, doesn't matter either. It's what it relays to you. Right. So yeah, for the whole sight thing, there's the difference in the encounters, but if it's just physically standing there, it's going to be as blurry as anything else, in my opinion.
Well, good. We differ on that. I think that that's good.
Okay. All right. Number 5, sleep paralysis. I witnessed a lady in white sitting next to me. I was at my grandparents' house spending the night. I woke up at about 3:05 and looked around. In a rocking chair next to me, I saw a lady who looked like she was in her 90s sitting next to me, staring at me sleep. After I realized I saw it or her, it disappeared. My grandparents' house is in a neighborhood with lots of old people living in it. Why was it sitting next to me as I was sleeping? Does anyone know if this is actually a paranormal experience or something like sleep paralysis, or my eyes playing tricks on me? Nothing in this story says the sleep paralysis whatsoever.
Nope.
I mean, sleep paralysis, you can't move. It's paralysis, but you
Right.
woke up.
It's a
You
misunderstanding of what that term means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not sleep paralysis. Now, the lady sitting next to you, it could have been somebody from the neighborhood, sure. Maybe somebody who had grandchildren or something like that, but were on the other side of the country and you were there and she knew it. Uh, it doesn't even have to be in the neighborhood. It could be your great grandmother,
Right.
sitting there making sure that you're okay.
Right.
And a lot of these times we were just talking about it, about that fleeting experience.
Yeah.
Some of them, a lot of encounters with spirits aren't intentional. Like they're going about their thing. And I honestly, it's been a question of mine for a long time are a lot of these encounters and things that people see intentional or not? Do spirits understand that they are able to be seen? Or do they cross some threshold where there's like a lot of energy, all of a sudden they're visible and they don't even realize it, and then they leave that area and they're back being invisible? But
or they don't intend to be visible, right?
Well,
Because
exactly.
That could be the possibility too. Like they know, hey, I am sitting here on the other side of the veil watching out over my grandchild, but I oh my God, he can see me, right? Like one of those kind of moments. Like I never intended that to happen. I was content with sitting here watching my grandchild.
Exactly. And and then once obviously the grandson woke up and looked over and like his eyes get huge and stuff, he's like, oh crap.
Right.
And
grandma.
and and they go back to being invisible. I mean, I can't even say that the grandma left her chair. You just couldn't see her anymore.
Right.
So I mean, one, I don't think that you had a bad encounter whatsoever. It definitely was not sleep paralysis.
No.
And I would just take it as somebody that wanted to either check in on you to make sure that you were okay, and might even do it night after night after night, and you might not even know it. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would move on with your life.
Nope. I would take it as a comforting. I agree with you. I would take it as a comforting type of thing if this happened to me. If I woke up and saw my great grandmother in the rocking chair, I would take that as hey, grandma, it's great that you're sitting here. I appreciate it. But at the same time, with me being me, I would question, I guess the only question I would have would be, is something wrong? Why are you here? Like you hadn't shown yourself to me for 50 years. Why are you here today? Right. That would be my only question. Would it worry me? No. But would it be something that would be in the back of my mind? Yes. So, but I don't think there's anything to be worried about. It's certainly, I agree with you 100%. It certainly is not sleep paralysis. If you saw somebody sitting, it could be tied to the chair. It's really, it might not even be your grandma. It just might be something tied to that rocking chair, right? Who knows? Maybe that the lady who sat in that maybe that rocking chair was bought used, and maybe, at a garage sale for $5, $10, and maybe that rocking chair is a couple 100 years old or 100 years old, and maybe the woman who sat in it sat on the porch, and that's what she did every day, was just sat there until she passed away, and just enjoyed life, enjoyed nature, enjoyed her view, and then she passed. And she might still be tied to that chair. Does it have anything to do with you? Maybe not. If I were to see it, I would say it'd be somebody I would know. Unless I didn't recognize her. But I know what my great grandma looks like, so. All right. How do I get rid of ghosts that follow me? It's a Good question. I fear that a ghost has either possessed me or is following me around. I can feel it watching me all the time. What do I do? Okay. My answer is going to be simple. Mike's is not. I could already tell you that. So, number one, you're not possessed. Possession does not happen from a spirit like you're a past relative. We just got done talking about grandmas. Your grandma hasn't possessed you. Okay. So you're not possessed. You could feel it watching you all the time. What do you do? Honestly, the first thing you need to establish is there something attached to you? You're going to need to go to a really qualified psychic medium who can identify whether or not you have an attachment. If you need some advice, we have friends of the show that are more than capable of telling you whether you have an attachment. But even if I think the paranoia comes into play here. So you could feel it watching you all the time. I don't know. Did you have a life moment? Did something change in your life? Did you recently get divorced? Did your dog pass away recently? Did a child, regretfully, hopefully not, but did a child pass away recently? Is there a reason why something would be watching you? That's another question that you have to ask. So if there's not a reason something would be watching you, you're not possessed. What would I do, or what do I do? You let it go, right? You just let it go. I think that you're potentially just experiencing maybe paranoia, and that you're having a hard, just let everything go. I know that's harder to do than obviously just simply saying it, but that's my advice.
I don't know what you mean by my answer is obviously going to be different.
Yeah, well, usually on a topic like this, you're going to be like, okay, well, I can tell you for a fact.
I've never used that line before.
Okay.
I've never been like, let me tell you for a fact. Let me hit you with some knowledge.
That's true. You never had, right, because none of us are experts.
Exactly. So
there is no such thing as a paranormal expert.
I can only give my opinion.
Right.
So, one, agree, you're not possessed. Believe me, if you're possessed, you'll know.
You'll know you're possessed,
and your message would be about 4 paragraphs longer.
Yeah,
because you have all kinds of experiences.
Bad things happening in your life.
Yeah, of you being possessed.
Right.
One, ghosts do not possess people. Demons possess people. Now,
right.
can human spirits jump you? Yes.
Oh, sure.
They can influence you. They can do that if they're powerful and enough and know how to do it. But could I tragically pass away tomorrow and know how to jump people? No. It's something that, for whatever reason you have to learn how to do, which you can in the afterlife. So, I mean, yeah, you're not possessed in any way, shape, or form. So I feel it watching me all the time. Is that it? Is paranoia like the only symptom? Or the only thing that is going on? I mean, because if that is, it leads me right back to EMF.
Right.
As paranoia is obviously one of them, the feelings of being watched all the time. So, but I mean, the fact that you think it's following you around, does it follow you around your house? Or does it go into your house, go into your car, into your work? When you're shopping in the grocery store, do you feel it all over? Because that's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess I need parameters on exactly what you mean by it follows me around.
I would agree. I forgot to say that. So
I completely agree with you that, yeah, if you think you have an attachment, you seek a reputable medium, they will be able to tell you.
right.
I've had an attachment. In fact, I talked a little bit about it yesterday at the team presentation. Kind of got attachments got brought up. Didn't even know there was there until a medium that was on the team at the time said that I had an attachment and
Right.
told me the case it came from and why this woman was there. But she had been attached to me for months and months and never did a damn thing. I didn't even know she was there. So, I mean, I didn't even feel watched. So you got one step ahead of me for your attachment, if that's what you have. But a medium will be able to tell you what you need to know. And we'll also be able to,
A good qualified medium. I'm going to
a reputable
throw
medium.
that, a reputable medium, right? Throw that in quotes there.
Yes.
Not just somebody not just somebody who says, yeah, I'm a medium and I can tell you what's happening. No. Just try to go to somebody who's who has helped numerous other people, like that has, some background story is what I'm saying. So
yeah. If you are walking by some mini mall and you see the palm and neon palm,
do not go in there.
You might not want to go.
And I'm not saying, and honestly, I shouldn't say that, right? Because who the hell knows whether or not they're qualified, right? So I shouldn't say that. But yes, for me, and I'm not going to give a specific name, but for me, I would go to somebody who has helped numerous other people and has a track record, like an established track record of helping people. So.
Yeah. So I mean that's it. But I mean honestly, you skip some levels there. I'm just going to put you there from feeling of being watched to possession. You skip some levels.
There's a few levels.
you even skip some demonic levels in there because possession's like the third level, and you skipped 1 and 2. So relax. If it's bothering you that much, like I said, medium, they'll tell you. They'll even tell you how to get rid of it. They'll even do it themselves if it's applicable.
Right.
So I mean, don't worry about it. You're perfectly fine. If it hasn't really done anything to you except watch you, it probably isn't going to do anything else besides that. If it wanted to teach you a lesson, if you did something to piss it off, believe me, it would make itself. It would make itself known.
It would have already done it.
Oh. Right.
Yeah. You'd be your question would be like, substantially longer. Holy shit! This is what happened to me. Right. You're like your eyes would be like we'd be reading it and I'd be understanding like, yeah, this is bad. So, Okay. Number 7, stereotyping the paranormal. What are your thoughts? When perusing the old YouTube videos, seeking some decent paranormal content, a thought occurred to me that the ghosts people expect are the ones that are most often sighted. As an example, you don't see small girls in white dresses with their long dark hair falling over their face in the UK. Yet they are literally all over the place in Japanese videos. Is this because
this apparition?
Because this apparition is familiar to that society? I'm gonna say no. So, and the reason I say that is because I think that, God, I hate saying this. I wish I didn't have to say this. I think that probably 90% of the paranormal content on YouTube is somebody seeking attention, or somebody trying to have their moment, or somebody trying to get followers. I have seen some good content on YouTube. I have seen what I would consider to be like, I have seen some stuff, honestly, that if I were on an investigation and I caught that piece of evidence, that I would be like, holy shit, that is a great, that's a really good piece of evidence. I'll give an example, and I think it's on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. Is the evidence that we caught in Iowa with the, people say she's like the dragon lady, but to me, I think it's just an actress, but it has the dragon wings, and it was caught on the, whatchamacallit?
The Fleer?
Yeah, the Fleer. Sorry.
So you're talking about the Grand Opera House Ferry?
Yeah, in Iowa. Yeah, the ferry. So I was at that investigation when Mike first showed me that piece of evidence. What was my reaction? Seriously. Right, you were there. Right?
Play that again.
Right. I jumped up out of my chair. I was like, holy shit, look at that. Like, you didn't have to point anything out to me, right? As a seasoned investigator, I knew what I was looking at, even though I wasn't specifically looking for that, because you didn't tell me what it was, right? You just said, hey, I got to show you something. Sit down. Let me show you let's take a look at this clip. And honest to God, that, like, I recognized it right away. So, I think that there is evidence like that. Man, I really hate the fact that I say this, but I think that a majority of the stuff that is on social media, YouTube is not the only platform, but I think that a majority of the stuff on social media is for views. Regretfully.
Yeah,
I think it's on. I think it's just for views. I think there's some good stuff out there. I just think you have to really dig through the crap.
Right. So, I mean, I have I agree with most of what you said. You know me. I don't like YouTube paranormal videos because I agree. I mean, it's either faked, hoaxed, or misidentified.
Right.
For the most part. I mean, if you go to like a channel of, again, a reputable paranormal team, not somebody that creates videos, not somebody who thrill seeks by trespassing into these abandoned buildings, searching for, experiences that they can capture and then get views. I think that you will see some good evidence and some legitimate evidence. It's drowned out by everybody else. Again, looking for the thrill seek, looking for using Adobe Final Page to put in all of these wonderful things and throw in music and make it all dramatic, so that you like their page and subscribe to their videos. But it's garbage. It's not paranormal. It's a movie. And with that said, though, Dave and I both know that every culture has their own folklore. We were just talking about it earlier, that America has its own version of the white lady. And the Japanese culture may have a folklore legend of a little girl in a dress with brown hair. I think the thing about it is that each culture that has these legends and these myths, that's what people seek out. People might not go to Germany or Spain to seek out a little girl with dark hair. They may go there for the White Lady of Spain. I don't know. And so a lot of people are going to have videos. Look, I found the White Lady of Spain in Spain. Who'd have thought? Right. So, I mean, you have to take everything into consideration as to what people are looking for. And, if people here in the US only search for Bigfoot, all of their videos are going to search for Bigfoot. They're not going to show the Yeti because nobody's searching for the Yeti here in the United States.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to take that all into consideration. So, I mean, to that point that this person made, I think they're right. I just think that yes, the little girl with dark hair is going to be seen in Japanese videos because that's the folklore for that culture, that country. Whereas here would be different. We don't have a folklore that involves the little girl with dark hair unless she has black eyes, and then they're the black-eyed kids. So
right, and I think this kind of leans towards The Ring video, the movie The Ring, or there was a Japanese, and it's not The Ring, but there was another Japanese movie like where it showed the girl with the white dress with the black hair walking down the stairs backwards, kind of like The Exorcist. Man, I don't remember the name of it, but right, I agree with you. Like, I don't think that our society sees spirits as a small child with long black hair draped over their eyes. We just don't see that.
Yeah, it's just not.
It's not common, right? It's not our viewpoint of a spirit,
right? So I mean, and also taking into consideration the fact that YouTube is international,
right?
So if you were looking at YouTube US and it only features videos from the United States, you're never going to see the little girl with dark hair.
No.
But if you were to do that, obviously with Japanese videos only,
right,
you would probably, it's like you said,
you're going to see it all the time.
See it all the time. So I mean, and honestly, that's a good observation. I applaud this person. Full kudos
to
this person for making that observation. But again, does that mean that all the videos on there are real? Or that you should take everything that's on there at face value? No. So, I mean, to this person being like, while perusing the old YouTube videos, seeking some decent paranormal content, what are you looking for? I mean, are you actually looking for good content, or are you looking for weird ass videos? I mean,
well, I kind of got the feeling they were looking for like some legitimate paranormal content. Is what I got out of that. Right.
We'll see.
I'm just saying, right? Like, I think they're looking for, like, show me something that I can wrap my head around that I can believe.
Gotcha.
Is kind of what my thought was. So, but you're gonna love this next question.
I
love this. I know you do. So I gave it to you on purpose.
My answer is going to be very short.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I can't believe it.
Any convincing paranormal television shows? Hey guys, most of us are familiar with shows like Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters. People who know these shows will probably be aware that the discussion each and every show of this type comes with, is it real or not? I feel like this question has been asked and answered from all kinds of perspectives, so much you really wouldn't know what to believe or what not to believe anymore. I was watching the Holzer Files, which I do really enjoy, but the inner skeptic in me tries to find unconvincing or faked acted behavior constantly. I'm wondering what your recommendations are for these type of shows. Are there any that you find interesting or convincing in particular? I am aware of the fact that for it to be successful, the creators will have to find a good balance between entertainment and what is. And what's actually going on. Sorry, I had dirt on my screen. I can't ask for a TV show to be an actual documentary, but I would still like to know your opinions and views anyway. Thanks in advance. No. I despise every single show that is out there for its own reasons. If I were to say any sort of recommendation, even though I have not seen any, probably the last 2 seasons, because I despise paranormal television at the present moment, I would say Ghost Hunters. It's about as close as you will find to actual investigation, like tactics and ways it's conducted. The only problem is the people doing it have a certain set way in which they want to do things, which I do not agree with. And they too have the quota of entertainment to reality. We have had many people on the show as guests where we have asked them about retakes and about this and that, and we get the same answer all the time. And that is the producers have the job to tell a story.
Right.
And that they will change stuff around to make it look a certain way.
Right.
Which actually kind of takes a legitimate experience and almost makes it look fake, just because they had to fit this in some way, and it's out of order. Case in point, the Clinks in that theater when they caught the I Am John Wilkes Booth. They told the story of that
down at Birdcage Theater in Tucson.
I don't think that's where they were. No, that's not where they were. They were at the theater where Lincoln got shot.
Oh no, the Lincoln Theater. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I know which one you're talking about, though. That was also a really good episode.
They did. Yeah, I was going to say the Birdcage Theater one, where they actually had something come over the radio speakers when nothing was powered on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the shows that you see are skewered. They're put out of order. There are definitely retakes where, I mean, hell, even Aaron from Ghost Adventures, he got into a lot of trouble for coming out on a podcast and saying if something is not happening in a certain amount of time, they have to
make it happen.
They have to act like it is.
Right. Now, but I'm going to say that doesn't mean that they're not having experiences that are legitimate at a location.
Well, right. No. I'm not saying that means
it's just not happening in the time frame that the producers want it to happen.
Exactly. I'm not. No.
Right.
My small tangent here is not to say that means that every experience you ever see is not legit.
Right.
Like I could always tell when Nick from that show, when he was still on it, was having a legitimate experience, because he would be like, if he wasn't and he was acting, he'd be like, I sense a dark presence right here.
Right.
And I'm so scared right now. But when he was legitimately having experience, he was out the flipping door hyperventilating.
Right.
And so, I mean,
like when he was at Moon River Brewing Company, he had a legitimate experience at that pool table, I think. Like when they shot him on video, like his eyes were turned back, and he was, he was ready to kill. And that's not Nick. I mean, from what I know from Nick, right? I mean, maybe there was just a great job of acting. I don't know, but I don't think so. And when they caught the very first episode of Ghost Adventures, when they caught that half body apparition walking across, I think that's a legitimate catch.
I do too.
I think that's a phenomenal catch of something at an old, ghost town, like an old cowboy ghost town type of catch.
So I mean,
at the Gold something hotel, Goldfield Hotel, right?
So I mean, in Taps as well has caught
absolutely early Taps.
Yeah, early Taps. Now everything
early Taps. Sorry,
but I mean,
I'm just saying early Taps because I agree with you that a lot of their stuff towards the end of their career was, to me, not legitimate.
Right. So, I mean, we've had Susan Slaughter on to talk about Paranormal Caught on Camera, and the very first episode featured a video that I asked her about right here in Shakopee, Minnesota,
Right.
where they all
Which was
claim,
the lights. Yeah.
yeah, which they all claimed was an alien craft above a Walmart, and
Right.
everybody around here knew it was the Mystic Light
It was the
Casino
Mystic
light.
Casino. Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, her reaction to that was, even if we know and we think it's fake, they're hoaxed, we still have to go on and just talk about aliens in general.
Right.
But that gives credence to the video because you're still showing it.
Right.
So, I mean, do I have any recommendations? No, I don't, because they are all skewered in certain ways. You know, I used to absolutely love the Dead Files.
Right.
But, you know, I've come to understand and be told that, you know, the whole Amy and I never talk during an investigation. Well, that's complete bullshit.
That's bullshit. Right.
You know, absolutely they do. And Steve's fed information about,
Right.
you know, he should go look for this and he should talk about this and he should ask this. It's all set up to be certain ways. And there's always going to be legitimacy to some of it. Absolutely. I'm not saying there's a show out there that is 100% completely crap. I'm not even Kindred Spirits, and I hate both of them. You know, I think they're probably the worst people in the paranormal right now. But that's my opinion.
How do you really feel?
You don't want to know how I really feel.
I already know how you really feel.
Because that would break FCC violation or regulation.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is so you can watch any show you want to watch, and it's going to be the same crap that you will see at any other show. It's just what their niche is. It's just how much they have to change and how much they have to put it out of order and how much they have to act. But there's always going to be some sort of legitimacy to some of it. So no, I have no recommendations whatsoever.
That was a hell of a lot longer answer than you said you were going to give.
Yes, I was just going to leave it at no. I have no recommendations.
Okay, I'm just saying. So, I watch paranormal TV for location only.
I know.
That's the only reason I watch it. Is for locations. Do I mean, I investigate differently than most of the paranormal television shows do. Maybe I mimic some of them. But for the most part, I only watch paranormal TV for the locations that they're headed to. And because they're on my bucket, and some of them are, I haven't been to yet. Places I want to go. So I like watching that for that purpose. As far as recommending a paranormal TV show, I can't recommend any. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't recommend any. I think they're all entertainment value. Well, I think all of them are, other than what I said, that early on, like I really believe, like you'd be hard pressed for me not to believe at the Goldfield Hotel that they didn't catch that apparition walking across the Goldfield Hotel for Ghost Adventures back in the early stages of Ghost Adventures. Just because of the camera it was shot on, it wasn't right. There was like nothing. There was no reason. Like it was a documentary. There was no reason for them to fake anything, right? It was just, I think that's just a great legitimate catch. I think it's just a great catch. They had a camera set up, a static camera set up, and it just happened to get a great legitimate catch, which is kind of what happened at, look at it this way, right? It was just Deb's, just throwing the flare up to the left, right? Had she not done that, honestly, the fairy never would have been caught.
Nope.
Right? But it was. And it's a phenomenal catch. right? I think it's just one of those things. Like I really believe I really believe that half a spirit happened. You know, I mean, hell, we were up in Rush City together, and when you saw the lower half of that, that spirit's body downstairs, I didn't see it, but you did,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you were like, "Holy shit! I just saw somebody walk by," and I didn't see it, but we had more than enough experiences at that hotel for me to understand that hotel was haunted. You know, so I don't know. Do I think any show is legitimate? I think right now, regretfully, a majority of the shows are looking for viewers. And so they're showing what they need to show or what they think the producers need to show to gain more viewers. Do I think that when the show started, they got some great evidence? Absolutely. I do. I still feel that way. I think Ghost Adventures is still one of the best shows. I know you hate Zach, but I'm just saying I think Ghost Adventures is still one of the best shows that has gotten some really great evidence that they've showed on TV.
Yeah, I hate that show.
I know you do. I'm just saying, and I'm not discrediting Taps. I think the international show, I think Barry Fitzgerald has gotten some phenomenal evidence with his. He was one of the first people to use some of the experimental camera equipment, and I think that he caught some absolutely phenomenal evidence on camera. I mean, I think Dustin had some great experiences when he got shoved out, shoved into the pit. Right. With the old castle, do I think that stuff's real? Yeah. We know Dustin. He's a friend of the show. Do I think he's lying? No, I don't think he's lying. I think he had an actual experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he said he was at the house in Kansas, and stood on the dark spot in the basement, that he felt so uncomfortable that he had to leave. Do I believe him? Yeah, I do. I believe him because he's a paranormal investigator, right? And I think that had we gone to that house, had all of us been together in that location, and we had stood on the black stain in the basement, would we have all had that experience? I think we would have. We weren't there, but that doesn't make me think that I don't think he's being
untruthful.
Yeah, untruthful, right?
Yep.
I think he legitimately had an experience.
Probably. I don't doubt it either. I love Dustin.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So, yeah, neither one of us have recommendations.
No, I wish I could. I wish there was a show that I could recommend to you. I think you take them all at face value. I watch them for locations, to be honest with you.
I used to watch them as study guides. How do these people invest?
How do they investigate?
How do they investigate? Can I put that into
what I'm doing today?
Yeah. Can I incorporate it into what I'm doing? Are they using, equipment that I have never seen before, but now I need? I used to watch the Dead Files simply because I wanted to see how the claims that people had,
right,
and the stories of what they were experiencing would fit with what Amy Allen would sense and come up with.
Right.
And try to, if I ever come across a client that has stuff like that, are there similarities between that case and what, and could I mean, honestly, my ability to expand the open-mindedness of what could be,
right,
was tripled when I started watching that show, because she would come up with stuff that I never even knew existed. Like, it's just not necessarily a spirit, a demon, or an elemental. Like, it could be some
Well,
interdimensional
shadow,
thing.
yeah,
It
interdimensional being, shadow person.
Yeah, it
Right,
could be,
right,
like black vines that are like
right.
absorbing your, like, some of this stuff. I'm like, holy God, how would you even come up with that? How, as an investigator, would you even know that that was
You
at
wouldn't.
all a possibility?
Yeah,
Exactly.
you wouldn't. You wouldn't unless you experienced it yourself. You would
Exactly.
never. You would never know that.
So
But then that goes back to the same question as an investigator: is Amy Allen 100% legitimate, or is Amy Allen doing what she's doing for television ratings?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Um,
Right?
you
I
know,
don't either. And I don't want to ever throw anybody under the bus. And Amy, if you're listening, which you're not, I'm not saying that you're a fraud.
I,
That's not
I,
what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, are your experiences always 100% legitimate, or are they 50% legitimate and 50% what the producer wants to show on the episode? Right? I think that they are. I think there's something there because she has such a unique perspective that I haven't seen before. Until I watched her show. I mean, seriously, right? Like you said, right? She sees stuff that we don't see. Like I have seen a lot of stuff in my time, a lot of stuff that I necessarily didn't want to see, but when I watched her show, I was like, holy shit, there's more out there, right? Like there's something else out there. There's more to it than what I've seen. And that's really what caught my interest with that show. And the fact that I really like the fact that Steve supposedly didn't know what was going on when I was naive. Now that I know that he knows what's going on, I'm a little jaded, I
yeah.
guess, for
Yep.
to that.
So, speaking of
Yes.
things being half real, half not, the producers changing shit around,
Right.
let's go into the Satanic Panic.
Let's go into Satanic Panic.
As we said, the second half hour of the second hour,
Yeah.
we're really looking forward to.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. You just put way too many stories in.
Yeah, that happens.
That's okay.
Well, they caught my eye, so
No, I understand. So, since this is your idea, your show topic, what is, in your opinion, the Satanic Panic?
Okay, in a nutshell, Satanic Panic, 1980s. Basically, they were throwing the Lord Satan into an area that was going to control society, right? So there were sacrifices going on constantly. Things that you trusted, like daycare, television shows, companies that you bought things from, Procter and Gamble, like all these like major sponsors that you saw on TV were all McDonald's, right? If you went to McDonald's and you bought a cheeseburger, 50% of your cheeseburger purchase was going to the Satanic church, right? At some point, I'm saying, you asked me. So
No.
that was legitimately what was happening, right? Is that people thought that's what was going on. It was fueled by misinformation, obviously, fueled by the media, which to this day notoriously doesn't always explore 100% of whether it's true or not. They get a hot topic or a hot story, and they're like, "Oh, look at this!" And they just glom all this bullshit out there into the media, into society. So yeah, I mean, that's what that seriously, that's what it was. It was Satan is going to take over. If he's not going to take over, he's being very well
represented.
Yes. I was going to say proportioned, but yes, represented is a much better term. Yes. So Satan was being much like all of a sudden the 1980s was going to be end of days, right?
Yeah.
If you're a believer in God, I'll throw that out there, right? Because the book of Revelations would say at the end of Revelations that obviously Satan will rise to power. There was actually recently a lot of ideas that Trump was Satan, right? Because if you follow the book of Revelations, he fit right into almost all of the parameters. You know, that he's going to be, you know, the head of the society, that he's going to be, you know, well-spoken individual, blah, 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 blah,
Okay.
blah, blah.
Well, you just
Yeah,
disqualified him there.
No, right. I know your personal views on Trump, but he was.
I think that's a pretty universal thing, that he's not well spoken.
He's done some stupid shit, I would agree, but he's also had some great speeches that were pretty rock solid. And I think that's what they're looking at, not his stupid tweets at midnight. I think they're looking at, you know, when he's in front of a major group or a major audience, is the guy well spoken? For the most part, he was. I think for the most part, he was fairly well spoken.
Well, anyway, we're not here to talk about Trump.
Right? No, we're not getting into politics. Right?
So right. But I was going to throw out there that you know, one of the things that started this whole thing, you know, I think it goes even earlier than that. But
sure.
But was something else. But it was a book entitled Michelle Remembers.
Right.
Which was supposedly about a woman named Michelle Smith, who went under like hypnosis or whatever with her psychiatrist, who then became her husband.
Which is kind of strange. Right.
You wouldn't think that would be a red flag, but but suddenly remembered that she had gone through, she had been like the victim of what the psychiatrist had deemed satanic ritual abuse. And they published this book and all hell broke loose.
Right.
But not for them. They were really good. Like the psychiatrist got to talk at conventions, and they got rich off all the book sales. But during like the 80s, they saw like 12,000 unsubstantiated cases of satanic ritual abuse. And this book, which started this whole thing, has since been disproved and discredited. Like, it's complete bull. But it started this movement. And that's one of the things that I can't wrap my head around, the fact of they use this, these people who started this whole thing and the people who continued it, put the idea out there, and that's all they really needed to do.
Right. Start the fire.
They started the snowball at the top of the hill,
right,
and then kicked it down the hill and let it build up its own steam.
Right. Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do is start the snowball, and everybody else will take care of everything.
Well, whose fault is that?
Whoever's the one that starts the snowball.
No, it's whoever perpetuates the falling effect of the snowball. Right? The
I
person at the top of the hill who puts the snowball up there and just let it sit up there, that's not the person to blame. It's as it rolls down the hill, all of these side influences are coming in. Because in reality, a snowball doesn't grow on its own, right? It's growing because of all these things that it's gaining as it goes.
Right.
But in your analogy of what that means.
Right? Well, right. But the person who created the snowball to begin with is the one to blame. Everybody else is not blameless, but they're accessories.
I'll give you that.
They're people who, for their own selfish and greedy purposes, decided to pack some snow onto this so they could get a little piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So they could get their own little
they wanted a little residual type of income.
So I mean,
it's all about money.
Well,
honestly,
money, popularity.
Right.
I mean, they have a thing here about Geraldo Rivera, who is still out there doing stupid shit.
when he went into the where the hell did he go? The bank vault of one of the great criminals. I forget which one it was now.
Yeah,
but he went into one of the bank vaults of one of the great criminals, like his secret stash. And when they finally got the vault open, they were like, "Oh my God, there's going to be like millions and millions of dollars and all this," and there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
Right. And it actually did. It was actually a live event on TV.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean, he does all kinds of stuff, and it's all for ratings, whether it's true or not.
Sure, it's all about ratings.
Right. So, I mean, he went out there and he did a documentary on this thing, and he said that there's at least like 1 million satanic people in the United States, and from there, everything, media picked it up and started reporting it, and it was all based on Geraldo Rivera's reporting. So, I mean, nobody, as you said earlier, people see this story and they see ratings and they see money and they see advertisements and all they have to do is latch onto this story and report it as if it's fact. Whether it is or not really doesn't seem to matter to TV.
Right.
And, and the thing that I've seen that this actually does not even seem to be like the original version of it. Yes, they went after satanic people or whatever, or daycares and stuff like that. But I mean, you could track that back to the 50s and 60s when people started calling rock and roll was evil.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, any that just seems to be the ongoing playbook for people who want to change society to match their own beliefs. As they start calling people evil, they start putting out the rumor or the idea that this is evil, this is happening behind your back, and it's always got to be something that modern society of whatever era they're on is going to find repulsive. Like, you can't put out the idea that dogs and cats are living in harmony. Nobody cares.
Right.
But if you put out there that people are training their dogs to eat cats, then people are going to...
Right. It would be a sensation.
Yeah. People are going to lose their minds.
Well, they'd lose their mind. All the cat lovers in the world would lose their mind. Absolutely.
Well, and dog lovers, because you shouldn't do that to dogs either.
Well, right. But more so cat lovers. Because they'd be like, "Oh my God, every dog is going to like eat my cat now." Right.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
They're not. Right. They're not.
I mean,
but
in this satanic panic, one of the big things that kind of speared it forward, which I'm sure you know a lot about in your research, is the McMartin preschool trial.
Right.
That came from that.
Right.
I mean,
where they were like boiling boiling children at daycare and then sacrificing them to the devil. Right.
Yeah.
Eating them. Yeah. So they were basically killing children at daycare and then eating them and then making that a sacrificial pact to the devil, which did it happen? I'm going to say no.
Well, they were all acquitted.
Right. They were all acquitted. Does that mean it didn't happen? No. But do I think it happened? I don't think so. I mean, other people might have other opinions. Whatever. I don't think it happened. I don't think that happened. What's worse than that is the fact that McDonald's had to actually put out a major announcement in the late 70s, actually, like 78, that they were not giving any portion of their proceeds to the Satanic Church. McDonald's was actually accused of giving 25%. Nobody raised an eyebrow. Then all of a sudden, it became 50%. And at 50%, people were like, "Oh, you're giving 50% of your income to the Satanic Church? You bastards!" Right? No, they were not. Right? They weren't. And there's a great story on a newsletter from a church that the pastor in charge heard it from one of his parishioners, that he never researched it, but he put it in the newsletter that McDonald's was doing this. Okay. And that's all it took. That set the fire in motion. Okay. He never researched whether it was legitimate or not. He just assumed that his parishioner was correct. I'm not even going to go there. But now all of a sudden you've got this newsletter coming from a church now in multiple churches that caused parishioners to look at it and in their newsletter and be like, "What the hell are you talking about? McDonald's is giving 25% of their proceeds to the demonic or to Satan's church," which they never were. Never happened.
No.
Right. Never happened. But that's what that's where the word panic comes into play, I think, in Satanic Panic, right? Is that Procter & Gamble was another victim of that. Procter & Gamble actually had to set up an 800 number for people to call in because they had 13. So Procter & Gamble back in the day had 13 stars on their advertisements. And those 13 stars, per the company, represented the original 13 colonies and Procter & Gamble's kind of their association with, hey, we believe in the 13 colonies and the birth of America, right? That was their whole gist moving forward. Somewhere along the lines, 13 stars meant you were satanic. Okay. So Procter & Gamble was losing sales substantially in the 80s of their laundry soap and other things because people were like, "Well, I'm not going to support you because you're supporting the Satanic Church." They were not supporting the Satanic Church. And they actually set up an 800 number where you could call in and get an explanation on a pre-recorded message where people were like, "Hey, this is not what we're doing. This is what happened. We had 13 stars because we wanted to respect the original 13 colonies." not because we're part of the Satanic Panic, which is nuts.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was not only that, but there was actually a lot of people in powerful positions helped this
Oh,
along too.
absolutely.
Yeah. Even with that trial that I did, they developed ways of leading children to side with the prosecutors and point out on what they called the automatically correct doll. You see it in like comedies and stuff. Show on the doll where this person touched you.
Right.
That pretty much came from that trial.
Right.
And they made it so they brought in psychiatrists and they brought in reporters. They brought in all these people. Police were a part of it as well. And they developed these tactics to lead children to do the testifying.
Right. Which is wrong. That's wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? That's wrong to begin with.
100% agree.
Never. You're right. Exactly. Never put a child on the stand.
So, I mean, they had they created this thing called BAD, which I had never heard of before when I did this research. Obviously, I heard of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving,
right.
Obviously DARE, blah, blah, blah. But apparently this was bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
That's absolutely asinine. I already know where you're headed, and that is, I'm throwing my 2 cents in right now. Asinine. That's 100%. The term I'm using.
I don't like Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't think that it's corrupting America's youth or anybody's youth.
It is not corrupting America's youth. No.
But these people use this satanic panic as a way of moving society to try to see things the way they did. So they were saying that this role-playing game and specifically Dungeons and Dragons as a satanic cult. And that they were using it as recruitment tools, inducing youth to suicide, murder, and of course, satanic ritual abuse, which 100% not true. In fact, studies were done or whatever, and they found that people who played Dungeons and Dragons had less of a suicide rate to them than normal society,
and actually have a higher IQ.
It takes a lot of creativity.
Right.
A lot of strategizing.
I'm just going to say, people who play D&D have a higher IQ than the average American person.
I know several people who play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't, and they are all amazing people. They're all exceptionally smart.
Right. It's true. Right. Yeah. They had a higher IQ than people who. It was their way of like finding something like kind of that fit their need, is the way I would describe it. Right. It was a journey. It was, you could let yourself go. Right. Is kind of what I'm saying. Like you could like dive into D&D and like put yourself into, this mythological type of world.
Yeah, the fantasy world.
Right, absolutely. Fantasy world, right. And a lot of intellectual people were looking for, an escape, I guess, at the time in the 80s. They're probably still looking forward to it.
Probably, but
probably. Right.
The thing about it is this whole thing revolves around finding something that people can get behind to go against. And there's nothing better than evil. There's nothing better than, Satan and his armies. Like, it's the epitome of everything we don't want. And so the thing about it is that you still, like, we're talking about the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
We're still doing it today in just different terms. I brought this up to you, before the show, and we were talking about it. And I don't need any emails about this or your people's opinions, but I mean, this is just mine. But this is what QAnon is.
Right.
I mean, it's the new Satanic Panic, only they're not really going against preschools and daycares and stuff like that. Now it's Hollywood actors and Democratic politicians and the whole Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden were taking children down in the basement of a pizza house and doing weird satanic. Everybody needs to use this tactic, to use this playbook in order to herd society to believe what they want you to believe. And they will come up with asinine things. You're like, what? But people want to believe it so bad, they don't even care how off the wall it is.
No, I mean, they hear it. It's the same thing that happened with music, right?
Yeah, the rock and roll thing. Yeah.
Rock and roll, the whole entire concept of rock and roll was satanic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Like the Rolling Stones are talking about like the devil. Oh, they're obviously devil worshipers. There was actually a lawsuit that actually made it through the court system for Judas Priest was being sued for like $6.5 million back in the 80s. How much money was that?
It's a lot of money.
That was a ton of money back in the 80s, man. $6.5 million in the 80s, where they were being sued because of lyrics in their song. Ozzy and Black Sabbath were being sued, right? Where he's like, I wish I could kill myself, but I forget the name of the damn song, but there was the lyrics in Black Sabbath's music where Ozzy had sang those lyrics and they were being sued, for like $8 million in the 80s. I mean, holy shit. That was a lot of money back then. I mean, $8 million is a lot today. Okay, let's put it into perspective, right? It's a lot today. But back in the 80s, there was a ton of money. There was like $800 million today, maybe.
It's pretty.
I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of proportion, but I don't know. I don't think I am. I think that, maybe that's really like the impact that it had. And some of those cases went to court. And people like that had their children had committed suicide while listening to Black Sabbath, or their children had committed suicide while listening to Judas Priest. Is it the band's fault for creating this satanic idealism that if you kill yourself while listening to their music, that you're gonna like get a reward from Satan? No, it's never been. No, every single thing that went to court got thrown out. The fact that it made it to court it still makes me shake my head, right? Like today, like why would you even let that go to court, right?
Absolutely.
Look at it today. Little Nas X in today's society, right, has a video called, it's not Memento, but it's something, it starts with an M, it's something like that. And it has him doing gay stuff with the devil on his video. Even today. Yeah. And now people are like, well, I just watched that video. What's going on here? He's obviously a devil supporter. I don't think he is. I think it's just artistic. I think it's just an artistic influence. I think he just chose that platform, right? For whatever reason. Do I agree with that? No. Do I think it's wrong? No. It's not my place to think it's wrong, right? It's his artistic viewpoint. But he has, expressed possibly moving forward with this satanic panic. And that showed up in my research. And I'm like, I just don't feel it. I think the satanic panic died in the 80s. And I think it was way out of proportion to begin with.
Oh, it's hugely out of proportion. I mean, so I think the one thing that we should say now that we're out of time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we've talked about how majorly over exaggerated
It was
and
way over exaggerated. Yeah,
blown way out of proportion,
right.
and it was the snowball effect, which I think they were hoping for. Honestly,
But I agree with you. I think that's exactly what they were hoping for. Was
the,
this wave of let's create this abnormal societal type of shift, you know?
but I mean, I think the thing that we're not seeing in all of this that we've talked about is the fact that satanic rituals are not happening.
Oh, they're
I mean,
certainly happening.
there there there, there are there are Satan worshippers out there.
Right.
There are
Church of Satan
satanic.
is right. Church of Satan is strong and growing, I'm sure.
I don't know about growing. At least personally, for me, I don't know if that's actually fact or not.
I don't
I don't
either.
know.
I don't either. But I'm
But
assuming it is. So
I mean, is it happening? Yeah. Is it something that they're going to come to your doorstep and
no,
ask, and try to take your children? No, absolutely not.
no.
And uh,
Are you going to send your kids to daycare and they're going to be boiled and eaten? No.
no,
No.
they're not.
No.
I mean,
Kinder Care is not going to boil your kids and eat them.
Yeah, and
as
if they
far as
do,
I know.
and if they do, you'll see it on Yelp. Somebody will write a review.
Oh, that is wrong. That right there, that is 100% wrong. I thought I knew where you were going. That completely is wrong.
you know.
All right, I'm just saying right now, I completely do not agree with Mike on that comment.
I'm not. I'm just saying.
That's
Somebody
horrible.
would write a review. Somebody would write a review.
Horrible.
Google reviews. I sent my child there, and he came home with a boiled arm, and they ate it. 0 stars.
I got 2.5 stars for seasoning. Yeah.
Anyway.
No.
So I honestly wish we could talk about this more because I mean I had different analogies and different comparisons and
we can bring it up beginning of next week if you want to dive into it a little bit, kind of finish this up. I mean, it's a big topic,
It is. I mean, there's just a lot of context to it that needs to be thrown out to the public or there to really understand the severity and how deep this went in our society in the 80s.
It was bad. I mean, right. It turned hundreds and millions of people's thoughts. I was gonna say hundreds of thousands, but I honestly I would say it was more like millions of people. Like millions of people were on board with what they thought was wrong with the Satanic Panic.
Yeah. So
like
I mean,
they were freaked out, man. And reacting without evidence.
Oh, who needs evidence anymore? Nobody needs. They just need to believe it.
Right, I do.
I do too.
But I do. But for me to get on board with something, I need evidence. But in the 80s, at that time, I think millions of people got on board just on hearsay. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
and like I said, sadly, it's still going on this day. It's just not the satanic church is no longer the target. But it's still, you either need to side with me, or if you don't side with me, you're siding with them. There's no such thing as I just don't believe what you're telling me. There's no middle ground. And that, my friend, is the work of the Sith. Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
Right.
And I ended that with the Star Wars.
He did end it with the Star Wars.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
I know you didn't. So anyway, that does it for us. I know we went a little long on stories. We'll try to make up for it next week.
Yeah, we could touch on this topic next week. Yeah.
So until then, Everybody stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here